Welcome back to Naval News segment. Today's Naval News comes at us from USNI News. That's the United States Naval Institute News. This story written by Mr. John Grady. Title is Luria, referring to a United States House of Representatives from Virginia, says U.S. needs to provide strategic clarity on defense of Taiwan. And reading from the piece here, it says, the United States must provide strategic clarity on what Washington would do if China invaded Taiwan, the vice chair of the House Armed Services Committee said on Monday. Representative Elaine Luria, Democratic Virginia, added, quote, we need to say, as an administration and Congress, we will come to the aid of Taiwan. She said the time for Congress to act is now, and that the president will have the authority to respond militarily to such an event, which current law does not provide. And that's a great comment. She continues saying, I'm going to read her whole quote here. We need to have the debate in Congress now, not when the Chinese are halfway across the Taiwan Strait. Lorena added, we should not take for granted their will to bring China under Beijing's control, even if they lack amphibious assault capability, which China has been increasing their amphibious assault capability dramatically in the last 5 or 6 years, really recently. So the statement that they don't have amphibious capability is quickly growing out of date. She's probably right for today at the time that she said that, but that's not going to be correct much longer. Let's go back to the piece, and then we'll revisit Miss Elaine's profile. See, the American public needs to realize what's at stake in Taiwan and the Indo-Pacific, she said, adding, do you want the Chinese to take over from the U.S. as the world influencer? Although the government is still operating under the constraints of a continuing resolution almost halfway through this fiscal year, Luria didn't expect to see plus-ups from the Navy when the administration submits its fiscal year 2023 request. So the Navy's still trying to get more money for additional ships. Still isn't approved because we're still under continuing resolution of 2021. It's a shame. Wow, she quotes a lot here. Continuing, quoting the representative from Virginia, I think the resources need to go to the Navy and the Air Force due to the nature of the Indo-Pacific, and the expected emphasis of the theater will receive the new defense strategy due to this month's. She said, past spending has been roughly divided into 3 equal parts of the services. So she is suggesting that more money go towards the Navy than, say, the Air Force and the Army. And, you know, those armed services aren't going to have any of that talk. But you'll learn why in a second, why she's doing this. Constraints, continuing the piece, on this year's spending due to the budget impasse, she noted, impacted future schedules and cost of the Columbia-class ballistic missile submarine. Yeah, the Columbia-class is going to be delayed now because they didn't fund the full project this year, the more money that the Navy needed to keep the Columbia going. To clarify that, 2022 budget, if it was approved by Congress, would have had the money for the Columbia-class. But we're using still 2021's budget that did not have the additional funds required to continue building the Columbia class. So that's the gap that she's talking about. Okay, in the past, Laura took exception to the policy of disinvesting, particularly decommissioning ships which still have service life. She's talking about the Ticonderogas here. We could get a few more years out of Ticonderogas, even the littoral combat ships that we're decommissioning now. We could at least keep them on the ship's list, active duty, for as limited as they are. She's suggesting all of these things. Okay, so why is she doing that? Who is this lady? Let's talk about that first. Let's talk about who she is. Here we go. All right, so she is a vice chair of the House Armed Services Committee. She's a member of the House of Representatives. So let's just quickly define what that means in the United States for our viewers around the world. Our government is broke up into 3 branches, Congress being one of them, and Congress is broke up into 2 sides. You have the Senate side and you have the House of Representatives sides. The Senate side writes the laws. They create new laws, right? They do other things too, but that's their primary function. The House side, they approve spending. Very important. House of Representatives. They approve spending. And so The House Armed Services Committee is a special committee that listens to the admirals and the generals and listens to what we need to defend the United States and, you know, what projects get funded and don't get funded. So she has, you know, a vested interest in talking about these things. So let's see where she is here. Here we go. Elaine Luria, Virginia. This is a picture of her. She has her own website talking about her district and stuff. She has a job opening. That's great. Let's see. Let's go to the About section. We're gonna learn about her. All right. So here's her district down here. She is part of, you know, Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake Bay. These are her constituents. So it's all Navy stuff. And she is a naval officer. She went to the Naval Academy. She graduated it. She served in the Navy for 20 years. So full, you know, respect for her service. I love seeing a naval officer work in Congress, especially on the House of Representatives. House Armed Services Committee, great place for her. Just a little blurb from her description. U.S. Representative Elaine Luria represents Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. Prior to her election in 2018, Representative Luria served 2 decades in the Navy, retiring at the rank of commander. She served at sea on 6 ships as a nuclear-trained surface warfare officer. Fantastic. So she's very intelligent, very experienced, you know, a lifetime of service, whether it's in the military or in Congress. Full respect to her. But let's take a look at what the House of Representatives doesn't do. They don't set foreign policy. So her statement here at the very beginning is what got my attention. The whole reason why this is even being brought to you by me as a naval news story is I was flabbergasted. I was confused. I was like, why is a House of Representative, a person that approves spending, talking about foreign policy? Foreign policy in the United States is completely controlled by the executive branch of our government. That's led by the administration led by the president. And then the president has advisors, the most senior of which is the Secretary of State. Secretary of State is the senior foreign policy advisor to the president who sets foreign policy. It has nothing to do with House of Representatives at all. So whenever she says we need to say, oh, here we go. She says we must provide strategic clarity on what Washington would do if China invaded Taiwan. So let's see, what is our current policy on that? Is it not clear? Is it ambiguous? You knew if it was, we wouldn't be talking about it, right? Or if it wasn't, we wouldn't be talking about it. So let's go to the Department of State. Department of State is the part of our government that is responsible for employing and coming up with a foreign policy led by the president. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's go to policy issues. Treaties around the world. Oh, here we go. Countries. Let's type in Taiwan. T-A-I-1. What is the state.gov, our Department of State on Taiwan? Let's go to the fact sheet. So we're not getting this from any news source. We're getting this from the actual government. What is our policy on Taiwan? Is it ambiguous? Is it unclear? I don't know. Let's read it. The U.S.-Taiwan relations, the United States and Taiwan enjoy a robust, unofficial relationship. We have an unofficial relationship. Now that is a little ambiguous. So let's continue reading the paragraph to see if there's any clarification of what this means. The 1979 U.S. PRC, People's Republic of China, that's what PRC means, joint communique switched diplomatic recognition from Taipei, which is in Taiwan, to Beijing, which is mainland China, in 1979, 40 years ago. That's the policy today. It has been for 40 years. That is very clear. There is no ambiguity in that statement, ladies and gentlemen. But let's continue on just to see if they go back to being ambiguous. Continuing the same paragraph from the state.gov. The joint communique, the United States recognized the government of the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government of China, acknowledging the Chinese position that there is but one China and Taiwan is part of China, period. There is one China. Taiwan's a part of it, period. 40 years of this policy being implemented. The joint communique also stated that people of the United States will remain culturally, commercially, and otherwise unofficially relations with the people of Taiwan. The American Institute of Taiwan, the AIT, is responsible for implementing the U.S. policy towards Taiwan. The United States does not support Taiwan independence. We should drop the mic right there. That's the end of it. That is the end of it. The United States does not support Taiwan independence. So there's your answer. There's your clarity for providing strategic clarity to the Taiwan situation. What we would do if Chinese invaded Taiwan, it wouldn't be considered an invasion because it's part of China. That's our foreign policy. So what the representative goes on to say is we need to say, as an administration and as Congress, that we will come to the aid of Taiwan. So what she really wants is to change our foreign policy. Now, Miss Elaine Luria can absolutely do that, but she can't do it from the House of Representatives. At the very least, she needs to be a senator, because senators do have some input on foreign policy. Not nearly as much as the Secretary of State and the administration, but senators under our Constitution do have a say in foreign policy. They don't make foreign policy, but they do have a say in it, okay? That's part of how our government works. House of Representatives that does the budgeting? Nope, not a word. She has no power here. You have no power here, Representative. So what she can do is leave the House of Representatives and be selected, because that's in a selected position, as Secretary of State of the administration, whether it's this administration or the next administration. But if she wants to be in foreign policy and have an impact on it and make this change where we need to say we will come to the aid of Taiwan, if she wants to implement that, she needs to change her role in government. She knows this, by the way. This is not a shock. She's just speaking out of her lanes for some reason, right? Now, will she leave the House of Representatives to go and work for the administration or the next administration to be a part of foreign policy and try to make this change? Well, let's talk about that. What is, here we go. Let's talk about money. So what are all the House of Representatives making right now per year? $174,000 a year is base pay, base salary for members of the United States Congress. Senators get a little more money. It's like $193 a year, something like that. So is she willing to, leave this $174,000 a year job to go work as Secretary of State or be part of the administration? Maybe, unless you look at, the senators' trades and how they spend their money, how they manipulate or how they profit from their knowledge of being in Congress to make money on the stock market. Let's take a look at what she's been up to, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, March 31st, 2021, she sold somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million worth of Alibaba stock. Did that work out for her? Well, let's just check this. Let's take a look at Alibaba. Let's go back 3 years here. 3 years. And let's see what happened around the end of March. 3 years. There we go. 2021. So here's 2021. That's January. This is February. This is March right here. So right as Alibaba was dropping from $239 a share all the way down to just above $100 a share, she sold up to $1 million worth of shares of Alibaba. Much more than her base pay is. She's profiting, like all the other congressmen are too, by the way. Senators, Congress, doesn't matter. They're making many times their base pay, manipulating or taking advantage of their foreknowledge of stocks because of how policies influence prices of the stock market than she's making in her base pay. So is she willing to give up the ability to make millions of dollars potentially to go ahead and try to say, we need to say, will we come to the aid of Taiwan? Will she stand behind this desire, lose millions of dollars potentially in the stock market to switch positions to Secretary of State, where she won't be as influential in policies that affect companies and trading and economics as she is now, to make this kind of change? We will see what she decides to do. Does she really feel committed to this? The real reason why she wants more money for the Navy has a lot more to do with her constituents. Here in the shaded area, you see the shaded area right here? This is her constituents. These are the people that re-elect her every 2 years as a House of Representative, a congressperson. And this is all Navy. Matter of fact, in her bio here, she says that over 400 active duty sailors live and work in her district. Now, she's 100% Navy, so she wants to maintain those ships. She wants to keep them from being decommissioned, keep the sailors on board of them, keep the money rolling in. Okay, so while she may say things like, hey, we got to be more clear about Taiwan, the truth is we are very clear about Taiwan, and the United States does not support Taiwanese independence. And if she wants to change that, she needs to join the administration, or maybe become a senator where she'd have a little more input than a House of Representatives. All right. Anyway, great story about John Grady. John Grady didn't go into the background of the Congresswoman, and that's fine. But I thought you should know why people run for Congress and how much money they can make beyond their base pay, 10 times their base pay in one trade. Yeah, that's the government we live in. Anyway, I'll look forward to seeing your YouTube comments on this one. Be careful, be courteous. Even if you disagree with me, that's fine. Just don't be rude. All right, I'll see you in the comments. Thanks, bye.